Hi there, welcome to the latest news in the Noah Presgrove case. Two new articles have come about from Daily Mail to KSWO News, so we're going to be reading through that today, analysing the information provided, checking for any additional updates and what has been acknowledged in recent time, because some of it has been sparked and influenced by the whole new court documents and responses by defendants Caleb and Jack Newton, which was covered last night with the new documents, analysing it, their responses, what they admit to and what they deny or not give answers to. If you want to learn more about it, you'll be able to find it where the link is available, top right corner, I symbol up there. Full playlist on the Noah Presgrove case and then the loose videos attached as well. Welcome if you're currently here during the live premiere. Share your thoughts and reactions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. Last night was very quiet. And to be honest, over the last few months, it's been very quiet, but it is what it is. For anyone that does have comments, whether you agree, disagree, you got any opinions, theories, questions, or answers, leave them down below under the video and we can always respond back to them. I'm going to acknowledge some probably later today from last night's video or the day before. And the order of how we'll do things is to get straight into the news article, starting off with KSWO, understanding what's mentioned there, and then Daily Mail, which does go more in depth with other events which have come about since. But it's interesting because what's being covered there, to some extent, is what I've already covered beforehand. So I was one step ahead. It goes to show how some news articles focus in more on factors and side events which don't link to the case, but have incorporated it regardless. I've done my coverage as well, but I provided a link and a level of importance as to how it can impact the case, how it can impact defendants, and so on. Without further ado, let's begin. The title reads, Pair of defendants in Presgrove wrongful death suit seek jury trial. Published August 27, 2025, updated 13 hours ago. Lawton, Oklahoma. A pair of defendants named in the civil suit concerning Noah Presgrove's 2023 death want to bring the matter before a jury. Presgrove's family filed a wrongful death petition in June, naming several people as responsible for the teen's death. Jack Newton, Noah's best friend, Caleb Newton, father to Jack, along with Val Patrol, Nepalese, the convenience store, were each named in connection with Presgrove's death. Now, there are other names as well, but it's because to do with in the initial petition, Val Patrol, who was accused, they've responded since, and then that's followed by Jack and Caleb. That's why these names are coming up now. The other defendants haven't responded back just yet. So the initial petition, Val Patrol individually was accused of selling Jack Newton the alcohol served at the party Presgrove attended before his death, despite knowing that Newton was underage. I mean, would they know that Jack was underage, or could they question it and have their suspicions because Jack looked young, too young to be of the correct age, but they didn't ask for identification, they didn't ask for ID? That could be a possibility. Now, before the wrongful death lawsuit, I was never aware of Val Patrol. I was never aware that's where Jack supposedly bought the alcohol from, but someone must know, some people must know in order to link it to the location and chain of store. The suit also claims that Jack was seen verbally fighting with Presgrove at some point during the party hours before the teen's body was found, as in on Monday. But what time on Monday? Before Noah walked away at 3:30 or in the process of 3:30 onwards? Now, because it's focused on Jack and Caleb here, it's referring to Jack, of course, but in the wrongful death lawsuit, it wasn't just Jack's name, it was Avery. Avery and Jack were both verbally fighting with Noah. No location given, but likely property of the party house, inside or outside, unknown of. Now, what was the fight about, though? What triggered it? Did it escalate? Based on my theories and ideas map analysis, I've done a couple of videos explaining how it can lead from one thing to another. And the distance factor, the timing of Noah walking away could be linked in a way. So be sure to check out my previous videos for that. Meanwhile, Caleb is accused of allowing Presgrove, Noah, to drive on an ATV whilst intoxicated which the teen crashed. The thing is, Caleb wasn't at the party. There's no evidence of that. So Caleb shouldn't be responsible for that. Caleb has been dragged into this, which is a bit reckless. I mean, yeah, you can drag Jack in because Jack was at the party. Jack was a friend to Noah, and Jack may have supplied alcohol to some extent. But if Caleb was never at the party and yet he's been added in, it just seems a bit unfair there for that particular reason, allowing Noah to ride it. Well, how could Caleb allow Noah to do anything if Caleb wasn't there to actually give a response or even react, or let alone even know what Noah's up to? More so, it would be Jack, but Jack was asleep at the time when Noah was on the side-by-side, supposedly. It's been said that when Jack was asleep or resting, that Carter, the girlfriend, did witness Noah get the keys and steal them in a way, and didn't really contest much, and Jack was still asleep, so Jack wouldn't know. You wouldn't have been able to allow or deny Noah of anything, really. If you're out of it, you just don't really play a part there. But beside that, in addition, all defendants are accused of failing a duty of care for Noah, which contributed to his death. However, all three have denied the allegations up to now. In terms of those that have responded, Val Patrol denying, Jack and Caleb denying. As for the other people, who knows what they'll say, but it could likely be the same response. Attorneys for Val Patrol claimed the petition failed to make any meaningful link between the LLC and Presgrove's death, and that seeking damages from it would violate the state constitution. I guess, there could be evidence and proof of Jack purchasing alcohol from that store. But where's the hard evidence and proof to say that alcohol specifically was meant for Noah and Noah drunk it all completely? How would you be able to prove that? That could be a bit tricky. But as long as there's some kind of hard proof to say the alcohol that was bought from that store and it was at the hands of an underage person and it was allowed, and if that alcohol is to be proven that it does link and it was associated in at the party, then there's still some kind of responsibility there. I mean, yes, you can say the store isn't to know what the alcohol is going to be used for or the location or where, but if you at least know or have your suspicions that the person buying it is underage and you're allowing it to happen, you're at least putting them in some kind of harm's way. And you should have the responsibility to say, you're not the right age to be having that, it's a no, and then leave it there. Of course, different situation if the person purchasing alcohol was a fully grown adult of the correct age and beyond, or a really old-looking individual, so it was obvious, but they may have bought alcohol and then supplied it to younger people. Then the store can't really be blamed for that because they're not to know. But if you know firsthand that the person buying it is underage, first of all, then there's a room for a problem. Anyway. And in their response, the Newtons denied the allegations made against them and claimed Presgrove's own negligence contributed to his death more than anything listed in the petition. In addition, the Newtons' response demanded that the matter be tried before a jury. So, as limited as that was, we can go on to the Daily Mail to see if it elaborates any further, and it might mention some previous points. Check for any new information, check for any contradictions or any misinformation. This is by Nick White, who may have been responsible for previous reports made on the case. I think Nick might have been the one that did it on Tyler Hardy, and originally it was stated as if they had an interview with Tyler Hardy when the wife Mallory said that never took place and there was misinformation about bullet holes. It just reminds me. This title reads, Noah Presgrove's best friend, Jack, claims teen's mystery death by the side of a highway was his own fault. Now, if that's what Jack thinks, it's Noah's own fault, main responsibility falls on Noah. What does Jack think as to how Noah ended up on the highway in the first place? I mean, Jack had mentioned in the early days he thought it was either a semi-truck mirror that clipped Noah at the head, or that it was Texas boys driving along and Noah was in the back and may have got pushed or fell out, which is interesting because that concept has come about in recent time when looking at it alternatively. So, 27th of August 2. Now, it might not show all the photos and media because I've got it in reader mode, but I do that so the advertisements don't pop up and the videos. So on the right is a more recent photo of Jack Newton and Carter Combs, and what they're holding there are baby scan photos, Carter pregnant. And people have said on the outside, oh, is that a problem in the case, how that's going to impact the case, and how's it going to impact the baby and all of that. Some people have got really dark about it, and yeah, it's somewhat questionable. I did a little bit of coverage on it, just to a small extent, documenting the latest developments and whatnot. So we'll see if it goes into much depth here. The best friend, Jack, a teenager whose body was mysteriously found on a lonely highway, claims Noah caused his own death through negligence. Noah, 19, wearing only shoes when his body was discovered on a desolate stretch, the highway, September 4th, 2023. He was last seen alive about a mile away at a 4-day, 22nd birthday party with friends over the Labor Day weekend that was heavily documented on social media. Wow! Finally, it's been acknowledged, a 4-day party, when other people in the community have referred to it as a 3-day party, when some news articles along the way have referred to it as a 3-day party. No, it was a 4-day party, even though Friday never gets talked about, and no one from the partygoers ever referred to who was there on a Friday and what exactly happened on the Friday. And people can say, well, Noah didn't die on Friday. Neither did Noah die on Saturday or Sunday, but people like to still talk about those days, so why not include them all? Interesting. And yeah, Labor Day weekend celebration, Avery's birthday party, her birthday actually being on the Monday, but you can understand celebrating it earlier over the weekend, turn it into a long party celebration. To say it was heavily documented on social media is a bit of a stretch, because I don't think it was heavily documented. I think there's still a wide range of footage and perspectives which just don't even exist, or they're locked behind privately, which we've just not seen. And some of the more important crucial events, from the side-by-side rollover, the after effects of that, to the shower, possible teabagging and beyond, and Avery and Carter arguing on the front porchway, footage of that supposedly existing. All of that hasn't come public, but if it was, I think it would fill in a lot of blanks, and it'd be very interesting to analyse. Beside that, Noah Presgrove suffered massive head and upper body injuries that led him to die from internal bleeding, but the cause of those injuries remain a mystery. Now, in recent time, people have suggested that one singular event couldn't have caused all those injuries, but other people have said, I think maybe based off the autopsy, that the injuries would have occurred all at once at the same time, meaning a singular event or so must have taken place for that. But beside, when people say a singular event couldn't have caused all those injuries at once, or just one after another, maybe multiple events took place over the course of however long. So some think murder, or gone a bit too far, and then staging. And the staging doesn't just involve moving the body, but destroying the body, a form of desecration, changing the direction and narrative, and trying to leave a mark, literally, to suggest one died in other ways, even though it's not natural. And then the murder aspect is, well, that is, some of it could be considered murder. The accidental aspect of multiple events, which some have suggested could be Noah was in the back of a moving vehicle, got up, fell out, hit the ground, either dead or incapacitated, then finished off by another vehicle shortly afterwards, which ran him over recklessly, unknown to the driver, or if they were drunk. So, chain of events to lead to the total amount of injury sustained to Noah is a possibility as well. Even the odd expert has suggested that as well. So, what's this? His cadre of close pals, still raging well into that Sunday night, consistently claimed they had no idea how Noah died, if they were even awake when he did. Well, the thing is, there are some people that supposedly never went to sleep, like Mikey Lair. Now, his best friend Jack Newton claims Presgrove's negligence caused or contributed to his accident in his response to a lawsuit. Now, how would Jack know that it was an accident when ultimately the autopsy report says unknown death? Maybe because just by default Jack feels that none of the friends, partygoers could be responsible whatsoever. But how well does Jack know everyone at the party? It's always worth having that open mindset of anything could be possible. And if the officials and authority believe it's open-ended, then maybe you should as well. It's interesting that. But if you're in a situation where you're trying to cover for yourself or cover for other people, of course you're going to word it as an accident and not murder or manslaughter. Presgrove's family, and that's the other thing as well. So, like I said, just a bit above, close pals, close friends, that the claim they had no idea how he died and if they were still awake at the time. Well, Jack Newton was supposedly asleep at the time of Noah's death, so how would Jack Newton know whether it's an accident or not? It would remain a bit of a mystery to him. So for Jack to claim to know it's an accident specifically, it's like, well, how do you know? You weren't there, were you? You were asleep, so it should be, you don't know if it's an accident, you don't know if it's something else. That's a bit of a red flag, in a way, if you look at it on the surface level. Presgrove's family lost patience after almost 2 years of near silence from police and sued 4 of his friends and 3 parents for wrongful death in June. How much was the suing? The value, is it like $65,000? Well, it just says it right there. The $75,000 lawsuit claimed the teen was beat to death by 1 or more of the defendants and dumped on the road, but didn't specify who allegedly did it, but it was at least 1 or 2 or more of the defendants that have been listed. So for the family, for the estate, for the attorneys to put that claim across, they must have a certain level of evidence for them to think and feel that way, and it should be strong enough, because if it wasn't, they would know that it would fall through. But then again, you got the brother Dalen Presgrove that's treating it as a Hail Mary, last-ditch attempt, and that if that doesn't work out, or down the line, Dalen may have to take a step back or so. And some people interpreted that as maybe it's not confident enough that this is going to work out because the evidence isn't strong enough to support the claims made. Now, I do believe, from my memory, in the wrongful death lawsuit, whilst it had mentioned a form of a beat-down murder, it did also acknowledge accident as well, I believe, with a slash in between. But there was a post on Facebook in recent time, might have been by Joyce Begum, putting it into perspective about OHP, with the other police force coming along at some point but not being directly involved, but OHP, it's a highway-based one, being the ones more so focused in the case involved. That in the comment section, some people were saying, do we actually know that the family are content and happy with the police, the OHP, or not? And it was kind of a bit back and forth. My response would be, well, obviously the family aren't too satisfied with OHP's progress, hence why they wanted the subpoena to get the information and investigative evidence across so the family could see it for themselves with their own eyes to see whether it's justified as to why police are moving at the pace that they are or not. And to just look at it from their point of view to see if anything's been missed, if it supports the family's own ideas. But the thing is, the wrongful death lawsuit came about before the subpoena was granted. So, in other ways, if the subpoena came first and they got all the evidence and material first, and then they filed the wrongful death lawsuit and claimed there was a beatdown, murder, 1 or 2 more defendants responsible, it would make sense in that order, as in you've got the evidence, you've seen it with your own eyes, and now you're claiming that this happened. Well, maybe you're claiming that it happened because of the evidence, what you've collected since from that subpoena. It didn't happen in that order. It happened the opposite way around in reality. So when the family do get a hold of that investigative material and evidence, all by OHP, will the family's mindset change with what's been stated in the wrongful death lawsuit? Will they retract anything? Is it too late? I wonder how it will go. Is it a final stab in the dark, hoping for the best, or is it done with a level of confidence and certainty that it can go a correct way and true justice can be met? Depends how you look at it. But in terms of that $75,000 lawsuit claimed, from Jack and Caleb's responses, it mentioned about no punitive damages, no cost for that. Jack Newton, 20 years of age, I believe, at this moment in time, who was the first, well, no, he can't be 20 right now, because he was 19, wasn't he, in 2023? Okay. Well, I thought Jack was 19 at the time. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, he was the first of the partygoers to find Noah's body. Of the partygoers, that appears to be true, was accused in the complaint of buying alcohol Presgrove drank and therefore contributing to his death. Do we have hard evidence that the alcohol that Noah drank was the alcohol that Jack bought? And then secondly, do we have hard evidence that the alcohol that Jack bought was specifically meant for Noah? Because if an underage person bought alcohol in the first place and then they placed it on a table and then a child came along and tried a bit and it led to health complications, if not worse, you could be held responsible in some way and bad things could happen. But it still links back to the store that supplied it to you underage in the first place. If you got people of adult age but not the legal age to be drinking, but still individually you have your own responsibilities and awareness of what to do and what not to do in a way, if you're an adult age. But you should be aware that there is alcohol present, you're not allowed to drink it because it's against the law. But people will probably say, yeah, but so what? What's the worst it's going to do to me? I might as well try it. I've done it before. Nothing's gone wrong. But in those circumstances, if you've got alcohol yourself and you're underage, trouble there, questioning. You leave it on a table. You bought it for yourself, more so, and then another underage person, but adult age, 18, drinks it, and something bad happens to them, and then you're blamed for it all. It seems a little bit unfair. In this case with Noah Presgrove, did Jack specifically buy the alcohol for Noah? I know it was mentioned separately that in the wrongful death lawsuit that when it came to Sunday afternoon, evening, that Jack was calling and asking Noah to come back to the party and promising copious amounts of alcohol. That copious amounts of alcohol, the promise of alcohol for Noah by the hands of Jack, was that on the day Sunday when going to Napoli's in Marlow, Oklahoma, the store? Do we actually know what date, what time that Jack went to the store to get the alcohol? Because I've not seen it myself yet. So, his father, Caleb Newton, was also named in the lawsuit, accused of allowing Presgrove to drive or ride, which flipped. Father and son filed a joint response to the lawsuit in Oklahoma District Court on Tuesday, denying responsibility for the teen's death. Most of the filing is a standard response to a civil complaint. As like what commenters said, denying the claims in each paragraph in turn without revealing any new information. But the end of the document includes 10 affirmative defences, including blaming Presgrove's death on his own actions. But Noah was negligent, and his negligence proximately caused or contributed to his accident and damages, if any, and negligence is comparatively greater than the defendant, meaning over 50%. If we're basing it off that ChatGPT measure of responsibilities percentages, if it's over 50%, but it's not 100, well then the family are entitled to some more form of monetary compensation, but it won't be as much as what they originally wanted. It could be half or so. Therefore, plaintiff is not entitled to recover their alleged damages. I guess that's in terms of money. As opposed to Jack and Carter, as I said earlier, there should be a caption below. Jack Newton, 20, Carter Combs, 21, announced earlier this month that they were expecting a baby next March. Right, I don't know what year is Jack's birthday, but if we're going from 24, 23, that's 2 years ago, 1980. So what, Jack Newton was, 18 at the time of the party? I thought he was 19 then. Oh well. Yeah, so expecting a baby next March, and then you've got Rosa, Caleb, Jack's father Caleb, accused in a lawsuit of allowing, that's the only accusation then. The Newtons also claimed Presgrove died in an unavoidable accident, casualty and misfortune that occurred without their negligence, without their negligence and without their presence from the looks of it. And if they weren't present, then how would they know that it was an accident, and how would they know it's unavoidable? Because what have they seen as in hard evidence that shows it in that direction compared to what other people think, including Noah's family? Interesting. I mean, the highway where Noah was found, and you think, well, that's unavoidable. Is it unavoidable? I mean, Noah Presgrove walking away from the party, walking off by himself, seems like a key turning point for the enabling factor of what could come next. Not that Noah wanted it, not that he expected it. But you distance yourself from a party and you're by yourself, you can be vulnerable to whatever. And depending on how far you walk off, there's that as well. Did or should other party goers have had a duty of care to maybe follow Noah to make sure he's okay so he doesn't wander off too far? It might be more of a moral thing, that, depending on if you value it or not. I mean, it's like if you're in a relationship and then the other half was drunk or needed to catch some air, so they decided to walk off. Are you familiar with the environment, the area? Are they familiar as well? Are they somewhat vulnerable? Are they conscious? Are they quite there with it? Are they drunk? You know, you as the other half could watch over them with some respect to their space and privacy, just to ensure that they're okay and they don't just wander off and get lost or into the dark and then there's other people about. You know, it just depends. I mean, if in the past, you know, all the times when Noah's walked off and other people were like, and Noah made it back safe, could have been treated the same way again, as in, well, Noah's walked off, do we need to follow him? Do we need to care for him? No, because he's probably cooling off, he'll probably come back again. But this one time, that did not happen. So it is a pattern. In the past, it might justify why not enough action was taken or looking out for Noah to some extent, unless there was different factors and events this time around which highlighted room for concern or a red flag, but not really seen that personally. Unless that claim in the community of Noah asking Brylin, do you have my back? Why and when and what time before Noah walked away? Hours before? Who knows? Beside that, Jack has always insisted he has no idea how Presgrove died. Well, if that's the case, then how can Jack refer to it as an accident if you don't know how Noah died? That's a problem, that. And that Caleb Newton has long maintained he was never at the party. I mean, from all the footage and evidence what we've seen, we've not seen Caleb at the party. Even Caden Pressey said from Saturday onwards he did not see Caleb there 100%. That's got to count for something. Now, why would people want to drag Caleb into it if Caleb is actually innocent? Even if Jack was guilty but Caleb was innocent, why would you be dragging Caleb into it with the one claim of something that Caleb couldn't be responsible for, because you would have to be physically be there or in contact with Noah to allow Noah to ride it and be in ownership of that vehicle too, which those boxes weren't ticked, that one claim, and it's not strong enough to stand from the looks of it. Is it desperation? Is it because, not for this to sound negative, but does the estate of Noah Presgrove, Noah Nichols, doesn't like Caleb, so they want him to pay as well? Is it because Noah's family feels that Caleb may have not been at the party but still responsible, as in knowing what Jack may have done and Caleb keeping it a secret? Well, if that was the case, couldn't you say conspiring as in keeping a secret, not as in making a possible false claim, but more of a genuine claim of not at the party, not present, but knew what was going on or knew what Jack may have done, and if they confided in one another later. You know, just as an example like that could have stood better than something like this about allowing Noah to ride the vehicle, which is weak personally. The response insisted neither Jack nor Caleb owed a duty of care to Presgrove and exercised ordinary care to prevent injury to themselves and others, and had a right to assume would obey the law. Right, okay. I can understand with Caleb, didn't owe no duty of care, especially when you're not physically there yourself. As for Jack, did Jack have more of a duty of care over Noah than other party goers? Morally, yes, only because of being best friends. But maybe legally, not really, no. They're all adults, underage or drinking, but all adults that can to some extent look out for themselves, unless they're vulnerable in the moment and can't, and they need someone else in a way. It comes down to this as well, just general public opinion, that if you've got a friendship group or two friends, just friends, acquaintances, it might be limited, the care, the consideration, and how you look out for one another. If you're best friends, well then it's probably going to be assumed that you know each other better, you know how each other feel, you bounce off one another, you help and look out for one another, good times, bad times, and there's a greater level of care. There's a hierarchy compared to just basic friends to best friends. But then, in a different situation, if you're in a relationship, then you got that deep connection for someone, that deep love for someone, that you will go above and beyond and do anything for that other individual. And hopefully vice versa. And if in a situation where one person is vulnerable or struggling, or it could come across that way, the other half morally and just by standard should be there for the other person, regardless of the past and how other people have treated that one individual. If you're in the moment for them, you do what you can, you do your best. Maybe legally you don't have to do jack shit, you know. They are their own person. They may be stubbornly independent, whatever. They do their own shit. They get on with their own thing. But there's a strong connection, like on a really deep level, connection-wise, then just by default within caring and looking out for the other person, regardless of the environment. But this is Noah and Jack. In terms of their bond and connection and how they look out for one another, I can't comment on that personally because I didn't see it myself, right? Yeah, they might get on positive, but what's it like during moments where there's a bit of distance or like physical distance of Noah walking away? Does Jack think, oh, where is he at? Take in mind, Jack was asleep, supposedly. So what could Jack do anymore? For when Noah walked away, what else could Jack do if he's genuinely asleep? It's limited, right? Just like how Caden Pressey, just a friend to Noah. Not a defendant, but just a friend to Noah. Caden was asleep as well at the time. Caden couldn't do anything. So, just take that into consideration. So, Presgrove chose to consume excessive quantities of alcohol despite knowing the risk, including injury or death, and therefore knowingly and voluntarily assumed the risk, the response argued. It comes down to what you're actually going to do. You could drink a lot, providing it's not a dangerous amount. And yes, it could make you drunk. If you're just passing out or sitting down in a chair and that's it, till you fall asleep, pass out, wake up, sober up, and then that's it. There's not going to be much danger. There'll still be risk though, because if you drunk too much, you passed out and then there was a fire, you're not going to react, you're not going to escape. So there's still always assuming a level of risk and the dangers of the what-ifs and what could go wrong, but the same could apply to Noah Presgrove deciding to get into his vehicle, driving down the highway sober. There's still that risk of what if the tyre burst? What if the car flips? What if there's a drunk driver on the road that crashes into me? Things you can't control, out of your control, there's still a risk. Every time you walk outside, the risk of getting attacked by a dog, the risk of possible thunderstorm, etc., etc. Some things you can control, other things you can't control. In regard to alcohol, providing you're not vulnerable, you should be able to control what you drink and if you drink in the first place. And with Noah Presgrove at a party, though, the party culture and environment, by default, it'd probably be that influence of drink alcohol, have a good time and so on. And you go with the flow, but you get drunk and that's the cost of that. See, if Jack didn't buy Noah alcohol, but there was alcohol present, then Noah Presgrove likely would have got that alcohol himself, picked it up, shared it, borrowed it, whatever. Because this is all on Noah, of course. But there are other partygoers present at the party that would have done the same as in drinking, may have done more. There's been those claims where Breeley, Georgia, underage, but actually one or two of them minors, under 18, showed up drunk already by their own actions, supposedly. So why is there not a heavy focus on them? Oh, because they didn't die. But Noah did. I think if anyone under the age of 18 had died at this party, I'm sure that the wording and the push would be a lot stronger, or at least in my opinion. But then again, when you've got the Warwick boating accident of a 7-year-old that fell into the water, was there a great push for that or not? Anyway, Presgrove's autopsy report found he had blood alcohol level of 0.14. Newton recently announced he is expecting a child with his girlfriend Carter, who was also at the party the night Presgrove died, and part of his inner circle. Part of his inner circle? What does that mean? That sounds a bit dodgy. Part of the inner circle as in defendants, all connected together, hiding something. Carter Combs, along with her older sister Avery Jo Combs and their friend Logan Jernigan, hosted the party for Avery's 22nd birthday at her grandfather's house off US 81. Right. So there is a period, a full stop there. It specifically says Carter Combs, Avery and Logan hosted the party. No mention of Jack's name in the same sentence as like some people try and push. You know what I'm saying? Jack didn't live there. Jack wasn't really hosting the party. But could you say if you have the power to invite or remove people from the party, that makes you a host? Well, when you've got a bouncer, a security guard at a club or rave, because they have the power to let people in and kick people out, does that mean to say that those bouncers and security guards are hosts at the party? Or are they just security on the sideline? You know, a partygoer who's an invitee, a guest, comes on down. They could take matters into their own hand and get demanding as in who can come and who can go and who should leave. Doesn't make them the host, does it? They're just taking roles and responsibilities into their own hands, approved or not by the actual host, right? I normally think of a host as in someone that lives or owns a place and doing a party, doing some kind of get-together. They, as in the girls, were accused in the lawsuit of providing Presgrove with alcohol even after he was already intoxicated and breaching their duty of care by doing so. But did anyone else get provided alcohol even after already intoxicated? See, this whole situation of alcohol took place on the Saturday as well, and going into Sunday. Noah was at least able to go to Warwick there and back to his place of living safely in his own vehicle. Enough time to sober up in between that, maybe, and enough time to be able to drive properly. But Sunday onwards. See, look, this is the thing. The differences with Noah Presgrove Sunday onwards compared to Saturday is Noah knew that he got a lift down Sunday afternoon, so he'd likely be getting a lift back home as well, such as Monday. When you know you don't have to drive, or maybe you don't drive in the first place and somebody else does, someone else has your back, you can drink as much as you want and so on. But if you're a driver, you got to drink and drive and think responsibly, engage when are you driving, when are you leaving, and how much alcohol can you consume in the moment. Because if Noah Presgrove had his own ride with him at the party Sunday and onwards, maybe Noah may have not drunk as much. Depends how you look at it. It'd be interesting, it's not possible, but it would have been interesting to break down the alcohol consumption levels in Noah's body, comparing it from Saturday to Sunday to Monday individually. How greatly did it differ? Did alcohol consumption levels increase drastically once Noah had returned back to the party, but not in his vehicle, but given a free ride down? That responsibility of not drinking too much, being a designated driver, would be out of the window for Noah because Noah doesn't have his own ride with him. So he's relying on someone else. Noah can drink as much and then rest in the back of the vehicle, right? That's how you could look at it in a way. What else do we have here? The party was a civil conspiracy to furnish alcoholic beverages to underage and intoxicated individuals, such as Noah. Over the course of several days, the lawsuit claimed they, along with the other defendants, are yet to file a response. The The shop earlier filed its own defence, also denying any liability. Where he was found, as in Noah, where the party house was. It's a nice little map, that, of course. I've done my own map analysis already. You'll be familiar with. Found about a mile north along the highway from a small street where the party was held. That's Logan Jernigan right there, a photo of her. Onwards. One of the girls who was at the party and Presgrove fell asleep with earlier on the weekend and was there the night he died. She is named as a defendant in the lawsuit. It'll be interesting to see what Logan says in her response to the lawsuit, because it was Jack Newton that said Logan was the last person to see Noah walk off heading east. So would that come up in any questions? Maybe not at this stage then, because the wrongful death lawsuit doesn't mention anything about Logan being the last person to see Noah walking off as a witness. More so just to do with the hosting, which is very interesting, to be honest. And of course, how it's wording it here, maybe without as much context, that Logan fell asleep beside Presgrove. Fell asleep together makes it sound like more of an intimate thing. But from what people have said in the community, the reason why it happened on the floor is because Logan passed out before getting to bed. And so with the same situation with Noah Presgrove, and they ended up just sleeping beside each other. But some of Noah's family members, Robin and Ashley Chadwick, believe that more than kissing took place and got quite intimate. Does it really concern anyone at the party? Well, it seemed to concern Avery for some reason, because Avery, from what people have said in the community, Avery said, if I find out you've done anything, I will kill you. I don't know if that was mentioned by Justin Roy, re-quoting, or Caden Pressey, one of the two, in one of the interviews at least. So that's an interesting situation there. Below it, OHP is not investigating the death as murder, but his family has long believed he was beaten to death and his body dumped on the road. Presgrove was beat to death by one or more defendants, the lawsuit claimed, without specifying who they believed it to be. The lawsuit left open the possibility that the alleged beating wasn't meant to kill Noah and included unidentified individuals amongst the defendants, either intentionally or accidentally. There we go, that's how it's acknowledged. The defendants killed. Although the death may have been unintended, hosting the party and beating of Noah was intentionally malicious and in reckless disregard of rights. Do we have any hard evidence of a beating? And what would be the motive behind it? Does it link to that verbal fight with Noah versus Avery and Jack? OHP didn't explicitly rule out manslaughter in its statement last year. The 6-page complaint offered no evidence Presgrove was beaten to death, let alone by anyone at the party, and none has emerged since his body was found other than the nature of his injuries. And in terms of being beaten to death, what? By fist? By feet? By melee items? Didn't go into depth in the wrongful death lawsuit. The photo there is of Avery Joe Combs, or Avery Joe Howard, also known as Carter Combs. As for location, no clue about that. Presgrove disappeared after arguing with Avery, pictured there. So with Avery and Noah arguing, that must be to do with the bedroom debacle where Noah wanted to sleep in one of the girls' beds. Supposedly, from what Jack says, went to Logan, maybe first, then went to Carter second. Went to Avery Combs second. And maybe it felt like a third wheel or second best choice and didn't like that, so rejected Noah. And then Noah called her supposedly a fat beep, and that might have triggered the possible argument, you never know. Anything else? After he asked to sleep in the bed, but she refused, Avery was named in the lawsuit. Yeah. And then we've got Carter Combs here. It's interesting how the Daily Mail are using I don't know if you call it updated photos or different photos which aren't actually from the party. Not that you'd possibly be able to, because not all party footage was identifiable as for clear individuals as defendants, but who knows why. I thought sometimes if you're trying to document or refer to individuals, you'd use photos more relevant to at the time of the party or the time of the death. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just use what's the latest. But then again, it depends what you're reporting on. Like the photo of Jack and Carter together with the baby photo, if you're talking about the event of that, well then you'll be using a photo that's relevant to that. That makes sense. But the other photos, I don't know. Carter was also named in the lawsuit as one of the hosts at the party. But legal experts told Daily Mail this didn't matter as much as it appeared, as even if the lawsuit never saw the inside of a courtroom, it could still blow open the case. That is because well before trial, the legal process of discovery and compelling witness to give depositions could reveal key evidence. Now, is any of that depositions and key evidence linked with a subpoena, or are there some bits which isn't involved in the subpoena? Presgrove's family lawyers, Austin Vance, Ryan Saylors from All Rise, said this was a big part of why the lawsuit was brought in the first place. As we get more evidence through discovery and depositions in addition to what we already have, the story of what really happened to Noah will become more clear and people can actually be held accountable. Now, is it going to mention about the subpoena though? I've yet to see that, because I think that's a big deal. Vance believed some of Presgrove's friends were keeping what happened to him to themselves and aimed to force them to talk. How can so many people attend a party and no one have come out and said what happened to him in almost 2 years, he said. It seems unbelievable that someone didn't see or know something that would explain his death, and we hope this lawsuit will lead to them revealing key information. The complaint named 4 of Presgrove's close friends who were at the party, one of their fathers, Caleb, and the owners of the party house. I guess that's Stevie. Got the highway there, chalked out where the body was to be found and what else was nearby. Oh, and the road there, that circle, I don't remember seeing that one personally. Presgrove's body was found between the 2 chalk lines. The teeth within the circles in the background is a memorial. Right, so I'm guessing both circles there of where teeth were, so they're a bit scattered about, interesting. There the ruts, the rumble, which supposedly filled up with blood from what someone told who was on scene, who told Brooke Bounce Carter some month ago or so. Confronting photos of police chalk outlines show where the body marked by the white line and at least one of his teeth marked by the circle, so a tooth found there. And in that circle, when you look closer, the ground does look a bit crimson or a bit reddish, light reddish, as in a bit of blood. Not enough, though. Jack was singled out as who allegedly bought the alcohol Presgrove drank, which the complaint argued made him partly culpable for his death. Is there hard evidence to show that Noah drank that specific alcohol that Jack bought them? He allegedly bought the booze from Napoli's convenience store in Marlow, which is away from where Jack lives, so it's interesting going in a different direction as to whenever. Oklahoma, also named as a defendant and accused of selling alcohol to a minor. Only the liquor store has filed a defence so far, giving broad procedural denials and asking for a dismissal. Only the liquor store has provided a response. Well, maybe this article was before the other one, what we've read, but Jack and Caleb has responded. The party was a civil conspiracy to furnish alcoholic beverages to underage intoxicated individuals over the course of several days. The lawsuit claimed they were accused of providing Noah with alcohol even after, we've already seen that. Presgrove's we've seen that. Jack's father, Caleb Newton, was accused in the lawsuit of allowing Noah to ride on the side-by-side, even though he wasn't there. Newton has long maintained he was never at the party, as in Caleb, and the ATV in the past been referred to as belonging to Jack. Jack owning the side-by-side. There we go. There's a photo we've seen. Also, as Jack claimed, he arrived or was coming up to the scene at about 6 a.m. as he left to go fishing with his father, Caleb, who was going to meet at the Warwicker ramp. But because of what Jack came across on the highway, called off. 6:05, 5 minutes later, made a call to his father about the news. That's 1:50 in the morning, supposedly, at the party house bathroom. Presgrove left, posed with Jack during the party. And I've already done an analysis based on the writing on the body. Yes, it does appear faded there, but it's before the shower and before the side-by-side rollover. Could have had a shower before, the night before, and if not that, in between, from what Brooke Bounce Carter said, that the party goers did keep going back and forth to the Red River to play in the water. So if Noah had done that, that could have washed away some of the writing, and in between, additional writing. Avery and Carter's mother, Stevie Howard, was named in the suit because she owned a trailer next to the house. Next to the house, the trailer, well, that probably means more west, down at the bottom, as you see on maps. Okay, so owned a trailer next to the house. I'm guessing the house, worded as that was used for the party. As was her father, Joni. So I did say the correct name, Trout Wilcoxon, who owned the property but was not present. Lawsuit demanded at least $75,000 in damages for funeral expenses, pain, suffering, and lost earnings and companionship, plus punitive damages. And in the response by Caleb and Jack, it mentioned about not enough reason for punitive damages, no payment there. Dr. Stuart Fisher, an internist doctor with extensive experience in emergency medicine, agreed with the premise of the lawsuit when he reviewed Presgrove's autopsy report for Daily Mail. Concluded the injuries Presgrove suffered were so catastrophic and varied that him being mortally wounded in a severe beating was most likely the cause. Okay. Of course, some experts will think that and other experts think different. It's not all one way. The inclusion of unidentified individuals in the lawsuit admitted the possibility that Jack, Avery, Carter and Logan played no direct role in his death. The inclusion of unidentified individuals. What, you mean the John to Jane Doe A to Z? 7-page complaints include some of the known facts in the case, including ATV accident and an argument just before Presgrove vanished. But no facts as in Avery and Carter arguing after Noah walked away, outside on the porchway. Toward the end of the party, defendants Jack Newton and Avery Howard were seen verbally fighting with Noah. It claimed who saw Jack and Avery verbally fighting with Noah and at what time and where did it take place. To say towards the end of the party, what was deemed as towards the end of the party when Noah walked away, or once Noah's death was announced, or in between, do we actually know? That's a photo of Stevie Howard there. Yep, Stevie Howard's named in the suit. Rough series of events emerged over the year since his death as the case was investigated. Texts were leaked. Details intensely discussed online. Oh, okay. Is this referring to the conversations between the likes of Jack Newton and Justin Roy, those texts being leaked, and other examples as well? The generally accepted narrative includes Presgrove being dirty after the side-by-side rollover accident, being helped to the shower by Carter and another party-goer, Jasmine Millan, because of how drunk he was. Seems to be the case. Presgrove soon after argued with Avery, whom some friends claim he was hooking up with at the time after he asked to sleep in a bed, and she refused and told him he had to sleep on the floor. Interesting. No mention of the teabagging, no mention of Noah being fed ramen noodles or yogurt by Carter. In quotes, she told him he couldn't sleep in a bed because he messed with her friend, Logan Jernigan, the night before, found sleeping on the floor. Jack told a friend last year. Well, I think Jack also may have mentioned that in the Partisan True Crime interview. The argument upset Presgrove and he wandered off into the night to cool off, never to be seen alive again. They make it sound like Noah Presgrove just got upset and wandered off, but other people have said that Noah called out Avery and insulted her and then walked off. Jack in Facebook Messengers explained to a friend his own argument with Presgrove. We argued about girls for a second, then ended up holding each other, crying, telling each other how much we meant to one another. And yet Caden Pressey had said, from what he witnessed at the party, Noah was yelling at Jack because Jack had flirted with Noah's girlfriend behind his back. Sounds drastically different compared to how it's mentioned here by Jack, as in, you know, we both held each other and we were both crying, as in we both hold responsibilities. But from how Caden words it sounded more one-sided. So you got Robin Smith in the middle, the aunt on the right, Deborah Smith, grandmother, and then as for the one on the left, I don't know. You got Casey, the mother, on the right, and then Victor on the left, I believe. Jasmine Millan, 341 snap, announcing Noah's missing. Well, Noah's missing, yes, pretty clear quality of the image as well. The door behind with a ringer doorbell. What I do find interesting, and we'll do it in a separate video, that cousin of Noah, supposedly called Paul Poucher, that said, came on down in the evening on the day of Noah's death to the party house, and it was a ghost town, no one was present. The house was all locked up, but could see through the glass window the personal possessions and bleach or whatever. How the hell can you look through that bloody window or the door, the glass? It looks really... I don't know, maybe it's just the angling. It looks like you couldn't really see through it, but I might be wrong. Yeah, Noah's missing, which continues to fuel condemnation a year later. Really? Interesting. Lawsuit added that at least some partygoers realised Presgrove was gone at 3:41. 3:41 timing is a reference to a selfie. Presgrove was found at 5:43 by Tyler Hudman, making that first call in, and then 5:53 by Tyler Hardy shortly after. According to both police and the lawsuit, naked and with some of his teeth scattered around his body. He was spotted by an Oklahoma Petroleum Allies hauler driver and Gulf Mark Energy Field Supervisor Tyler Hardy, both of whom called 911 minutes later. It's interesting how even in these official news articles, and for most part of it, they don't acknowledge Tyler Hudman. They only refer to Tyler Hardy. That's weird. Jack claimed he happened upon the scene about 6 in the morning to go fishing. Yeah. And then in quotes, I figured maybe he got a ride or something, as in Noah. As Noah's done that before. Got mad and left, he told. Right, so if Noah's done it before, you might think it's happened again. Okay. He was not one you usually worry about. I wasn't really thinking about it. Yeah, that's the thing. It does differ. You know, if you're in such a casual, relaxing, somewhat close friendship or relationship, you don't have to worry about the other person, that they can handle themselves and vice versa. Not much to worry about, not much to think about. And then when something goes wrong, you're not going to anticipate or expect. And then when you do find out, it's too late. Every situation and every relationship and every connection is different out there. You get in some other extreme case scenarios where one person may worry too much about the other person, and then that can lead to negatives. And then you get in between the perfect balance of just looking out for one another and actually consciously thinking at time. When people say, didn't think about it, I wasn't aware I was doing it, I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, do you actually care? And is there any care to change or make an effort? People don't always make an effort or make a change. I still think back to the hierarchical structure of colleagues, then friends, then best friends, then family maybe, or relationships. It's like there's a certain order to it, and with each structure and tier, there's going to be a certain level of commitment, there's going to be a certain level of care, there's going to be a certain level of openness and communication and all of that. But maybe it does differ from place to place, from person to person. The timeline is disputed by another partygoer, Caden Pressey. Finally, Caden's name gets brought into news articles, been left out for a bit. Caden claimed woken up at 5:15 and Jack bursting through the door at that time. There's Tyler Hardy on the right, wife Mallory on the left, who called out Daily Mail previously for false information. Jack Newton burst through the door, as in, I guess, Caden. Noah's dead, like frantic, tearing up, told detectives in a leaked recording of June 21st interview. Yes, the police leaked interview, in which Alicia, the mother to Caden, had shared it with the attorney or something, put it into a Dropbox, but then decided to share it to strangers online because she supposedly trusted them, and then some of them leaked it. And then another YouTube creator out there decided to leak it onto YouTube and kept it up. And then when the victim's family, when Alicia, the Pressy family, tried getting it taken down off YouTube, it was temporarily privatised by the said creator, but then publicised once again. And you know what? I find it bloody typical how some other individual out there can leak a police interview on YouTube, get away with it, and then I do my own independent video, which doesn't leak anything of the said videos that were supposedly removed, and I get punished. What? What? That is pathetic. Caden Pressy also claimed when he followed Jack to the body on the highway, Presgrove had black shorts on, in contrast to being naked with a pair of white shorts on the road nearby, from what Tyler Hudman Hardy saw later on. Since the Daily Mail's initial coverage of Presgrove's death last April incited global media attention, thousands of true crime enthusiasts have flocked to free Facebook groups and Reddit to endlessly discuss the case. Free Facebook groups. What's that? Justice page, Army page, case discussion page, or the Sofa Sleuth page? Interesting. And then, of course, Reddit, that dodgy one. Many of them are convinced Presgrove was murdered and his body dumped on the road, especially given the lack of blood at the scene. Oh no, not that again. They've hailed the lawsuit filing as a huge step forwards towards justice, and if that's the case, well, that's good then, despite its lack of evidence of foul play so far. Transitioning on to last night's video, let's just have a quick look at the comments, which is all in connection to what we've been talking about today in some way or another. First of all, Michael Facecast did make an appearance, which is interesting. Michael says, in his opinion, Noah Presgrove didn't walk away from the party. He was driven, already deceased. That implies what Michael is getting at in his opinion, that Noah Presgrove died at the party house or the property. In terms of walking away, though, not walking away, he's saying that Noah died in the house, killed in the house possibly. Or you're suggesting that Noah Presgrove did walk away, but not by his own free will. He was escorted, he was dragged out of the house and then died on site of the property. Depends how you look at it. I said, so you think he died in the house? Just try and get a response, didn't get one. Patricia, I think he died outside the house, but on the property. Okay, fair enough. I get that. But do you think, Patricia, that Noah walked away from the party, went outside, and then died, got killed? Or do you think that people took Noah out of the house against his free will and then killed him that way? Which way are we talking? We got Glenn, shout out to Glenn, of course. We got Jorge Garcia, Jack Newton, you're going prison, your best friend end up being tortured in a criminal death, you guys, whatever that means. Mike Johnson says wrong. And then Tammy, in my opinion, the accident with the side-by-side was avoidable. Keys shouldn't have been available after everyone was drunk. Or is that the accident he's referring to? I think Jack could be referring to a different accident, the supposed accident that killed Noah, not the side-by-side. Could the keys have been put anywhere else? I don't know personally. I mean, they're in Jack's pocket, would that have been any better? For Noah Presgrove to go into the bedroom of Carter's where Jack was to look for the keys, was there an indication earlier as to where they would be? It's interesting. That Jack was asleep, wouldn't have been able to stop Noah, but Carter was half awake or woken up by Noah coming in and Carter didn't stop Noah. Could look at it that way. Classy replay crew, of course. Of course, we've got Melanie. Shout out to Melanie. What does that mean? You don't have to answer. I just see it a lot and I've always wondered what it means. Well, because I don't see a response, I can give an answer, Melanie. So when Classy says replay crew, it basically means watching the video on catch-up. So whilst my videos are pre-recorded, they are aired on YouTube for the first time as a live video premiere. So pre-recorded video airing live with a live chat feedback, live chat replay, and so on. Once my live video premiere has ended, it just remains as a normal video on my channel. And then when people watch it, they're not watching it live, they're watching it on catch up, as in on replay, if that makes sense. Like if you were watching something on TV, it was live, but you weren't there to watch it live. You taped it, you recorded it, and then watched it on your hard drive afterwards. You can have the replay crew. And it's just like another line that was used back in the Dylan Rounds case community when people couldn't make it to a live stream or a live premiere, but they rewatched the video afterwards later on. So that's what that means. Spencer, interesting court documents. My opinion, unless the police files hold hard facts like DNA and geofencing information for the jury civil claim, going to be hard to prove. God knows what happened to Noah. Brenda, the Newtons and the estate both want a jury trial according to the court filings at this time, and I think that's what was probably mentioned in the news articles of today too. So I'll probably bring it up once again in a separate video, repeat it to highlight it as a dedicated video, whether it's long or short. You know, the whole suggestion in the Daily Mail article, which is kind of similar to what's been mentioned on the Army page about that many partygoers present at the party, on site of the property, but more specifically in the house possibly, who didn't see, didn't know, but surely they would know something, but no one's speaking or talking or actually truly opening up. They may say they don't know, but do they really not know? And others that may not talk much. Look, we've got to break it down bit by bit. First of all, how many is many at the party? Because what some people say, like Caden Pressey, Sunday night, there was 30, 40 people. But in the police interview, besides parts in true crime, as contrast, Caden said it was Friday, Saturday, there was 30, 40 people. Then other people online say it was 30 to 40 people as a whole over the course of the days, an accumulative figure, not all at once. Caden Pressey had mentioned, I think in the police interview, there was only 15 people present at the party Sunday night onwards. Is 15 people considered a lot at a party? And how many of those said individuals were asleep at the time? Because if by chance that everybody was asleep, how would you expect anyone to know what happened to Noah Presgrove? Based on that very simplistic scenario. From what we know of to some extent, which goes against Caden, but it actually complements the idea of those that may push for that this party goes that may know something in some way. Indirectly speaking would be the snap of 5:27 in the morning, which shows Mikey Lair, Jasmine Millan, Logan Jernigan all awake. Awake, not asleep. Whilst at that time, were other people asleep? Don't really know. Supposedly 5:30 is when Jack was woken up by Jasmine, so it's not too far apart. So some people were just outright asleep. And if they went to sleep at like 2 in the morning and then woke up at 5, 6 onwards, well, then they're not really going to know what has happened to Noah. And they couldn't really say much about it. So maybe you single out the people that never went to sleep then. I mean, might not be fair, but, you know, you use Mikey Lair as an example, a person that supposedly never went to sleep. Well, did he know? Did he see anything in between? It might be of a certain time period that really matters most, 3:30 onwards, as in the time when Noah walked away, then the time of the death, but that's unknown of. The estimate that was given, which Jack Newton mentioned, I guess without much context, supposedly told by police, maybe, was 4 in the morning. 3:30 to 4 in the morning. What were partygoers doing in between that time, and how many people were awake? And whilst Logan, from what Jack said, was the last to see Noah walk away, heading east. And then what? Don't really mention anything else past that point, which is unfortunate. But, you know, if all those partygoers remained at the house and Noah was the only one to distance himself from the house and people, how would you expect those at the house to know what happens to Noah when there's physical distance apart from one another? And even fading out into the darkness because it's a dark morning, early hours. You're not going to see much. I mean, is there an expectation for partygoers to know? An expectation for partygoers to have followed Noah, or been outside to maybe hear or see something? senses may be limited as for visionary because it's dark and it fades out into darkness. But hearing, using your ears, did you hear any screams, any cries for help, any shouting and arguing and so on? The verbal fight with Avery and Jack versus Noah, at what time, what location, did anyone else see or hear it? So, to say that someone or people do know, you could word it as some people could know, should know, may know, but not absolutely. Just be careful with the language and wording. It really comes down to breaking it down simplistically, and it's just probably not happened. How many at the party Monday morning onwards? How many awake at 3:30 to 4 in the morning, for example? And how many were asleep? Look, when it came to the process of elimination of who could have been a passenger on the side-by-side, even though that wasn't deemed as the be-all and end-all event, that was treated as complex and people couldn't quite work that out. So could the same apply to the situation with who was asleep and who wasn't at 3:30 onwards? I guess so, because I've not really got a clear answer ever since. Doesn't do much good there. And to be honest, if people are truly innocent, just to clear it up as fast and as soon as possible would go a long way. But you might not get that because from the horse's mouth, they're just not willing or able to communicate online anymore publicly because of how they may have been treated or just the drama in general online, pushing people away, which screws over everybody else in learning. So with that being said, we can probably do some separate smaller videos on the similar themes just to put my points and theories and ideas across and see where it goes from there. But hopefully you found this video somewhat interesting. If you want to hit the thumbs up, share the video, that'd be appreciated. Full playlist, top right corner screen, and make sure to leave a comment below. My name's Wallach Raff. I'll see you next time. Goodbye, good night for now.